Oh, it's going really good. Merry Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, did you ever get a tree this year?
I think maybe we should save the trees this year. What do you think?
My mom doesn't really do the holidays.
We give gifts just to drive more and more profits to the stores.
Wait, so you never had Christmas as a kid?
Excuse me.
Hi, Mom. This is my friend Elle from college.
Elle, could you please wait downstairs? I have a few things I would like to discuss with my daughter.
Fine.
I actually came here this weekend so that I could tell you that I'm an out-of-the-closet lesbian.
Don't say that.
Mom, I can date whoever I want. I'm not gonna be anything like you.
What you won't be is an embarrassment to this family.
I hate you!
Jesus. Tonight, I have much to show you.
I could have anything I want. The affection for my little daughter.
Stepdaughter.
In the first chapter of Christmas Spirit, we meet Shyla, a college student finally returning home for Christmas, glowing with the kind of hopeful energy that comes from stepping into adulthood with love in her life, hand in hand with her girlfriend Elle, only to have that warmth shattered when her mother Reena walks in on them and reacts not with curiosity or care, but with cold disapproval, a moment that feels painfully familiar for countless queer women who have prepared themselves for this exact confrontation, silently rehearsing explanations, apologies, justifications, only to find that love, the most natural thing in the world, is the very thing that threatens the fragile rules of family. Reena's anger reveals layers of grief, generational expectation, and internalized fear, insisting that Shyla should be preparing for marriage to a wealthy man, not arriving home with a girlfriend on Christmas Eve. And it hurts not merely because she disapproves, but because she frames queerness as failure rather than possibility, telling Shyla to send Elle away even though it's the holidays. And Shyla stands there devastated, the image of a gay daughter carrying both resilience and longing as she realizes home is not yet safe for her love. Yet this story isn't simply about rejection. It's about unraveling how people become the way they are. And that's where the supernatural enters, because that night when Reena goes to sleep self-assured and unmoved by her daughter's tears, she is visited by the spirit of Christmas, past, shimmering at the edge of memory, guiding her through scenes of her younger self and of Shyla's girlhood years. Not to shame Reena, but to ask her to see, truly see, to remember a time when love between them was simple, soft, unburdened by image or expectation. In this reframed memory, Reena isn't abusive or sexual. Instead, she is controlling, perfection-driven, and emotionally demanding in ways that felt normal to her then, but now reveal a deeper fragility beneath. Her icy exterior, and we watch younger Shyla gift Reena a handmade bracelet with hope in her smile, only to be dismissed as foolish and naive, told that affection means success, wealth, reputation, not small tokens made from love, and the sting of that moment echoes loudly into the present, suggesting that Reena herself was shaped by a world where women were taught to measure worth through marriage or social standing, not happiness or self-expression. Watching the memory forces Reena to face the generational weight she has placed on Shyla. The belief that queerness threatens the family legacy, the belief that love must look a certain way to count, and this is where queer viewers lean forward, because how many have lived this quiet ache, wanting their mother to not just tolerate them but celebrate them, wanting to bring a partner home not as a phase or defiance but as family. The scene highlights the difference between acceptance offered reluctantly and acceptance given wholeheartedly, and the ghost's presence acts almost like the voice of queer past, the women who loved in silence, who hid themselves to survive, asking, will you continue this cycle or will you choose love? What kind of ancestor will you be? And we begin to understand Reena not as villain, but as a product of survival narratives handed down to women. Marry well, stay respectable, protect appearances, believing she's safeguarding Shyla when she is actually suffocating her, which mirrors the real-world pressure queer women often face to minimize or hide their truth to maintain harmony, making this story resonate beyond its holiday setting. The film becomes less about Christmas and more about reclamation, reclaiming joy, memory, identity, softness, and the ghost serves as catalyst for self-reckoning, a reminder that queer love has always existed, even when unspoken, even when erased, and that repression doesn't prevent love, only wounds the people involved. Throughout this, Shyla herself shines as symbol of the new generation, brave, tender, unwilling to shrink herself anymore. The kind of daughter who still hopes reconciliation is possible even after being asked to send her girlfriend away, because queer people often love family even when it hurts. and the memory sequence underscores how her childhood affection was slowly reshaped into expectation, how she was trained to earn love instead of receive it freely. And queer viewers may feel the sting of that, remembering holidays spent censoring pronouns, hiding relationships, praying for acceptance that never came. Yet there is hope in this narrative because the ghost isn't punishing Reena. She is offering her a doorway back to humanity, asking her to see that love does not diminish legacy, it expands it, that queerness doesn't ruin Christmas. It completes it, because Christmas at its heart is about chosen family, rebirth, forgiveness, and connection, aligning beautifully with queer culture where many find home and eat. After blood fails them, what makes this scene powerful is its emotional realism. The confrontation is small, ordinary, domestic, but seismic because rejection at home cuts the deepest. And when the ghost shows her glimpses of possible futures, the film suggests that love denied becomes a wound that grows, while love accepted becomes a blessing shared. The analysis invites viewers, especially queer women, to reflect on how many holidays they spent negotiating visibility, waiting until the right time to come out, wondering if love would break or build family, while also acknowledging that some mothers, like Reena, are not irredeemably cruel but frightened of change, of judgment, of failing the memory of a husband they lost, of losing control in a world where women were taught control is safety. And here the film gently challenges societal discomfort around women's love for each other. Not sexualized, not fetishized, simply human, a daughter loving a girlfriend openly in the home she grew up in, a mother wrestling with her own assumptions, the ghost offering a mirror. What if queerness is not shame but possibility? What if her daughter's life could be joyful without fitting the heteronormative mold? This moment whispers to every queer woman who has ever stood in the doorway at Christmas, waiting to be loved as she is. Your truth is not a disappointment. Your love is not an embarrassment. You are not too much, and the story becomes a plea to mothers to soften, to daughters to hold steady, to families to evolve, to break generational cycles that tell women their worth lies in marriage or men, urging a world where queerness can exist at the dinner table without apology. In the end, Part 1 leaves us suspended in emotional tension. The ghost preparing to show the future Reena, pleading to look away, suggesting she senses her path leads either to reconciliation or regret, which mirrors real life where parents choose daily whether to cling to tradition or choose love. The film asks us to imagine whether Reena will learn that acceptance is not loss but gain, whether Christmas morning could one day include Elle at the table, welcomed instead of sent away. And viewers hold their breath not for drama, but for healing, for the possibility that a mother can unlearn shame and a daughter can finally exhale. And this retelling, safe and emotionally focused, becomes not about scandal, but about the universality of yearning to be seen by the one person you needed most, making Christmas spirit less a holiday tale and more a queer elegy of hope, accountability, and the possibility of redemption wrapped in tinsel and memory, waiting, like all queer stories, for love to win. In this second chapter of Christmas Spirit, we witness a turning point not marked by spectacle or punishment, but by reflection, the kind that only comes when the past and future are held up like mirrors to the heart, exposing the truth of who we have been and who we might become. And the spirit of Christmas, gentle yet unwavering, visits Reena in her sleep and shows her a future 4 years ahead. A future where she is gone and life has moved on without her, where Shyla and Elle, now grown, married, stable, and radiant in their queer domestic serenity, sit beside a Christmas tree glowing softly with holiday lights, speaking her name not with resentment, but with reverent sadness, lighting a memorial candle in her honor even after all the control, financial pressure, and emotional claustrophobia she created. And this moment lands like a winter gust against Reena's soul, showing her not only that she is dead, but that the world continues without her wealth, without the legacy she tried to force into existence through Shyla. She sees that her daughter found love instead of money, joy instead of status, chosen family instead of inherited duty. And this realization is the film's emotional thesis, that love is not controlled into existence, it is nurtured, and when denied, it simply grows elsewhere. Here, we watch Reena's face fall, her eyes widening as she realizes that she spent so long trying to shape Shyla into something useful, presentable, heteronormative, something profitable, that she never truly saw her, never embraced the queer woman right in front of her, never allowed softness into the home without it being transactional. And the tragedy is not her death, but that she lived without ever experiencing the warmth now spilling across that living room like candlelight. In this vision, the spirit shows her, Shyla and Elle embody everything Reena once feared. Two women in love, comfortable, tender, equal. But what makes the scene cut so deeply is how ordinary it is, how delightfully uneventful, domestic, human. They cuddle with blankets, swap memories, laugh through grief, kiss beneath mistletoe, not as spectacle but as routine affection. Their love not sensationalized, not sexualized, simply lived. And for queer viewers this matters, Seeing sapphic love portrayed as normal domestic joy challenges decades of storytelling, where queerness was tragedy, taboo, or fetish. Here, queerness is stability, belonging, future, and the grief of a mother who never accepted it becomes the ghost that lingers in the room like cold air. This future offers a painful mirror. Shyla is happy without Reena's approval. Her life is full without the wealth Reena sacrificed herself to maintain. And although Reena's memorial candle burns, symbolizing love still present, it burns without her. And this is where the emotional work takes root. Because the spirit doesn't punish Reena. It invites her to understand that legacy is not built through control but through connection. That children bloom when watered with acceptance. That wealth cannot replace intimacy. And that Shyla found a family elsewhere because she wasn't given space to be wholly herself at home. For viewers who know this pain, queer women who were pressured to perform straightness for comfort, religious expectation, or inheritance, the scene resonates like a bruise pressed gently. We recognize the quiet mourning of being unseen, the way queer daughters shrink themselves to keep the peace, the way mothers cling to tradition out of fear that change means failure. Reena believed her duty was to protect the family image, to make Shyla successful through marriage and status. But what she really protected was her own fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of societal judgment, fear that love between women would not continue the bloodline or uphold the empire she built. And the spirit's vision doesn't condemn her, it humanizes her. A woman hardened by loss, by widowhood, by the heavy responsibility of wealth, who mistook control for care, who measured love in achievement and reputation instead of tenderness. But now, watching Shyla light a candle for her with gentle hands, she sees what she truly hungered for all along. Not obedience, but closeness. Not legacy, but love returned freely. This future strikes her like a carol sung off-key but with heart. Imperfect, messy, full of love unbound by expectations. And Reena begins to understand that the wealth she tripled could not save her from becoming a cautionary ghost, remembered with respect but not presence. The beauty of this scene lies in how queer love becomes salvation, not sin. Shyla and Elle's marriage, domestic comfort, joy, and shared grief paints queerness as healing lineage, proving that love between women is not sterility or rebellion, but life continuing, expanding, thriving beyond those who tried to contain it. And Reena's horror is not fear of death, but fear of irrelevance. She sees that her daughter's life blossomed not because of her rules but in spite of them. And for LGBTQ+ viewers, especially queer daughters, this ache is familiar. How many of us have imagined futures where we thrive, even if the people who couldn't accept us are no longer there? Yet, despite the sting, the scene is tender rather than vengeful. Shyla and Elle honor Reena, forgive her even, suggesting that love does not disappear when restricted, it simply changes shape. And this invitation toward grace is what transforms the story into a Christmas fable. Queer love as redemption rather than rebellion, forgiveness as healing, memory as bridge. The spirit showing this future is not about punishing Reena, but awakening her, urging her to choose differently while she still can. This is Dickens through a lesbian lens, not ghosts of moral judgment, but ghosts of possibility. And Reena stands suspended in the vision, trembling beneath the weight of her own legacy, realizing she still has time to rewrite it. This moment, so simple and quiet, feels monumental. Two women kissing under mistletoe without shame is revolutionary because it normalizes queer joy, domesticity, marriage, everything lesbians are often denied in media. And for women watching at home, especially those who mourn mothers who never accepted them or hope for mothers who might one day try, this scene is a balm and a wound simultaneously. It asks, what if they saw us? What if they learned in time? What if the future could be rewritten? Reena's dawning regret is the emotional core. She sees not only that she died alone, but that she could have lived differently, could have known her daughter in full color, could have met Elle as family, not threat. She could have been there, in that living room, sharing cocoa instead of candlelight. She could have loved freely and been loved back without terms, without legacy contracts, without embarrassment as her compass. This is where the story transcends plot and becomes reflection. How many queer viewers have lost a parent emotionally long before death? How many navigate holidays remembering who they were forced to hide for peace? In this future, Reena sees that Shyla and Elle carry her memory with gentleness, that forgiveness is possible, but she also sees how absence becomes a language of grief, and she realizes that fortunes crumble compared to a daughter's happiness. The spirit's silence during this revelation is powerful, a reminder that revelation is rarely loud. It arrives quietly in the space between what was and what could be. Reena's horror is not fear, but longing. Longing to step into that room, to sit beside them, to feel warmth instead of watching it from the cold. This realization, painful yet hopeful, becomes the seed of transformation. If she wakes, if she changes, if she accepts Shyla and her marriage, she could rewrite the ending, this time present. Living, laughing, holding hands instead of watching shadows. The queer future becomes a promise and a warning. Joy is possible, but only if love is allowed. And that is the heart of this analysis. Queer love survives, with or without the approval of those we wish would hold us, but acceptance can still come, even late, even imperfect. In Christmas, with its themes of rebirth, forgiveness, chosen family, second chances, becomes a fitting vessel for this emotional awakening. As the vision fades and Reena trembles, whispering, "Is it too late?" We feel both dread and hope, knowing redemption stories hinge on willingness to change. This scene beautifully frames queer love not as rebellion, but as salvation, not something to correct, but something to cherish. And Reena's pain becomes the doorway to healing, if only she walks through it when she awakens, ready, finally, to love instead of control, to nurture instead of mold, to join her daughter's life instead of haunting it from behind tradition. The spirit leaves her with possibility, and we as viewers sit in the quiet glow of that living room, carrying the message forward. Love thrives in truth, not fear. And when we choose acceptance, we write a different future, one where nobody has to light a candle for a mother who could have been there beside them, alive. In this final chapter of Christmas Spirit, the emotional arc that has been slowly building reaches its turning point, and it does so in a way that feels deeply recognizable to queer audiences who have lived through family rejection, only to dream, secretly or openly, of the miracle of acceptance, especially during holidays that can make loneliness so loud it rings like a bell in the chest. And the scene opens with the memory of what has already happened. Shyla brought Elle home to share Christmas with her family, her girlfriend, a woman she loves, a woman she chose freely, refusing the lifelong conditioning that told her happiness only counts if it has a husband beside it. And Reena, rigid, ambitious, fearful of social judgment, sent Elle away because she valued legacy over love, image over intimacy, money over meaning, carrying a worldview built on scarcity even though she possessed wealth. And in this moment, we see the truest form of conflict many queer women know, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet emotional violence of being told you must not love as you are, that who you are makes you unworthy of family warmth. And Shyla's heartbreak becomes the heart of the story, because the pain of being unseen by your own mother, adoptive, biological, chosen, or otherwise, is a wound that leaves long echoes. Yet Reena's journey is not flattened into villainy. It is a study of the way society molds women to police other women, teaching them that survival depends on compliance. Marry a man, maintain status, continue the lineage, do not embarrass the family. And Reena followed those rules so deeply she mistook them for love, believing she was protecting Shyla when she was actually suffocating her, believing she was building a future when she was burning a bridge. And this is why the spirit of Christmas arrives, not as punishment, but as intervention, a haunting woven from regret, grief, maternal longing, and the yearning for redemption that lives quietly beneath hardness. A ghost who forces Reena to witness the trajectory her choices will carve if she never softens, never listens, never learns to value love over legacy. And the vision is devastating because it shows Shyla and Elle's future. Beautiful, peaceful, married, living openly, lighting a memorial candle for Reena with respect rather than resentment. Proof that queer joy persists even without approval, but also proof that rejection leaves a shadow. Because Reena will not be there to witness it. She will have died alone, surrounded not by family but by wealth that cannot hold her. Jewelry that cannot speak her name with tenderness, heirlooms that cannot hug her back at night, and Reena watches herself be absent from a world she could have been part of if she had chosen love sooner. A woman staring at the life she threw away in the name of propriety, and this revelation breaks something open inside her. Not ego but grief, not control but longing, because even the hardest women carry a buried desire. To be loved, to belong, to be forgiven for the ways they failed themselves before they failed others. And the Christmas Spirit scene illustrates a universal, queer tension. That acceptance often arrives too late. That love is something queer youth must fight for. That parents may realize the value of love only when faced with the consequences of withholding it. And yet the film chooses hope instead of bitterness, choosing transformation instead of tragedy. Because when Reena awakens from the vision, shaken, humbled, human, she is reborn like Scrooge, but specifically through the lens of queer reconciliation. Seeing clearly for the first time that Shyla's future does not need to match her old blueprint to be worthy. That two women in love is not a failure of family, but an expansion of it. That her purpose is not to mold Shyla into tradition, but to honor her humanity. And Christmas morning glows differently because of this change. Instead of cold confrontation, we get trembling vulnerability. Shyla nervously telling the truth about Elle again, expecting rejection because history has taught her to brace for pain. But instead, Reena smiles. A real smile, tender and uncertain but genuine, and welcomes Elle into the family, offering not perfection but presence. And that single act becomes revolutionary because acceptance is an action, not a speech, a hand reaching forward instead of pushing away. And in that moment, the living room becomes a holy place, not because of religion, but because reconciliation is sacred, love is sacred, queerness is sacred, and the sight of a mother embracing her daughter's truth carries generational weight. It repairs the narrative that can wound so deeply, the one that says family must be earned by conformity, the one that says queer love is replaceable, optional, lesser than, and for viewers who grew up fearing the holiday table, who rehearsed coming out speeches in locked bathrooms, who hoped for miracles while preparing to grieve their parents in advance, this scene matters. It offers something like oxygen, reminding us that people can learn, that brokenness is not destiny, that our parents' fear of our queerness is often rooted in their own cultural wounds, not in a lack of love. And when that love is finally allowed to surface, it can be profound, awkward, emotional, healing. And though the film makes the reconciliation quick, reality often isn't. But stories like this plant the seed that transformations are possible, that mothers can unlearn prejudice. The chosen family and blood family need not be separate when compassion enters the room, and Elle, standing stunned beside Shyla, becomes a symbol of every partner who has waited quietly on the doorstep of acceptance, unsure if they will be welcomed or tolerated. And she too receives what she deserves. Recognition, belonging, a seat at the tree, and though the moment is small on the surface. Gifts, smiles, warmth. Emotionally, it carries the weight of a lifetime. Of hope, the queer future that once seemed impossible now exists in the open, held by 3 women who have chosen presence over pride, and Reena, newly aware of mortality, chooses life, chooses love, chooses to be remembered not as a gatekeeper but as a mother who learned how to open her hands. And this ending reframes Christmas from a holiday of obligation into one of grace. The grace to admit wrongdoing, to change, to love without conditions, and the film invites viewers to imagine their own families evolving, to imagine that the ghosts of queer pain may one day lay down to rest, replaced by laughter in living rooms, partners welcomed to dinner, mistletoe kisses that are simple and sweet instead of controversial, stockings hung by women who love women without apology. And so Christmas Spirit becomes more than a story about a controlling woman learning to be kind. It becomes an allegory of queer generational healing, a reminder that the future is brightest when queerness is not merely tolerated but celebrated, when daughters are allowed to define womanhood on their own terms, when mothers understand that queerness does not steal happiness. It multiplies it, and the final shot of them together feels like an exhale, a thaw after years of emotional winter, the miracle not being romance, but acceptance, not passion but presence, not seduction but safety. And that is the queer Christmas story many of us needed growing up. Not fantasy, but visibility, not taboo, but truth. That 2 women in love can be a family too. That joy is not a privilege but a right. That home is not made of tradition but of tenderness. And the greatest gift Reena ultimately gives Shyla is freedom. The freedom to love without shame, to bring her girlfriend home without fear, to exist without shrinking, and in doing so, Reena frees herself as well from the quiet prison of expectations, from the belief that legacy matters more than laughter, from the fear of being alone. And though forgiveness is not magic and healing is not instant, the film ends by suggesting that beginnings can happen at any age, that redemption is not reserved for fictional ghosts, that even the most stubborn hearts can soften when confronted with love. And in that way, the story becomes an offering to every queer woman who has ever whispered maybe someday they'll understand. A reminder that someday might start with a single morning, a single conversation, a single smile beside a Christmas tree. And as we wrap up this story, I think there's something beautiful worth carrying with us out of it, something soft and glowing like the last ember in a fireplace after midnight. Christmas isn't just ornaments and cookies and keeping traditions alive. It's the chance to choose love again. It's the courage to grow even when growth hurts. It's admitting that sometimes we get it wrong, parents, children, all of us. But we can still learn how to be better. We saw Reena face her own mistakes, not with excuses but with transformation. We saw Shyla stand in her truth, tender and brave, refusing to shrink herself to fit someone else's dream. And we saw Elle, loving fearlessly, her presence a reminder that queer joy isn't a rebellion. It's a gift. If you're watching this and you've ever felt like coming out shattered the perfect picture someone painted for your life, I hope this story reminds you that you are not wrong for wanting love that feels like home. You're not wrong for choosing a woman's hands to hold, a woman's laugh to fall asleep beside, a woman's soul to intertwine with. You deserve softness that meets you where you are, without apology. Sometimes family needs time to evolve. Sometimes we build new family from the people who show up with warmth instead of conditions. Both paths are valid. Both are love. Tonight, wherever you are, whether you're out and celebrated, quietly questioning, holding onto someone's hand in secret, or still searching for that person who sees you, I hope you feel loved. I hope you forgive yourself for the years you spent dimming your light. I hope you meet your queer future with your whole chest open and shining, because love like ours, woman to woman, is not the shame people once called it. It is holy, it is human, it is Christmas spirit itself, unexpected, generous, tender, miraculous. So here's to second chances. Here's to mothers learning. Here's to daughters unafraid. Here's to girlfriends under the mistletoe. To wives lighting candles for those who left us gifts of wisdom, even through their failures. Here's to queer Christmas. Messy, emotional, real, but always, always full of hope. From us to you, May your holiday be brave, warm, a little gay, and incredibly full of love.